Hey guys, can we do just a little sound check? It's been a while, just want to make sure my settings are okay, so just let me know if you can hear me, and I'll put on some music and how I am in relation to that music. For the person asking, I am not from Europe, I'm from Canada. I sleep late, so it's not really the morning for me, but it is, I don't know, customary to say good morning, I guess. Let me go in here. So can just someone in the chat there should be a chat either under you or to the right. Just let me know if you can hear me and how I sound and how the levels are, and then we'll kind of get started. I figured this would be an interesting way to kind of get back into the swing of things after taking a few weeks off there for the Christmas and New Year's and that type of stuff. Sounds great. Thank you, sir. So hello everyone. While I've been gone, I haven't been doing really much. I haven't been doing anything super interesting. Just hanging out with the family. One of my best buds got married. I was best man in that. That was a fair amount of work and all that, and it was kind of just time for a little bit of a break, right? You get into algo trading, so you do less work, and then you find out you just end up doing other work to replace your time. So what I figure I'm going to do in this is, again, answer any questions that anyone may have. I'm going to pop out the chat here and bring it in so people can see that I am not crazy or talking to myself. Stuff is actually happening, so we'll move this over here. I'm just going to go over the markets. I know technical analysis is not why most of you are here, but I have been looking at charts for over 10 years, so I do like to observe this kind of stuff. Go over the markets. I had an idea for a scan. I thought I'd let you guys in on kind of the first couple steps of what I'm going to do for this scan. This is, if it works out great, something I'm going to give to the guys over at Trade Ideas. They can feed into Holly. This one's actually going to be a swing trading algorithm. I've been getting more and more, I don't know if it's old age or what it is, but less and less interested on kind of the intraday movement, and more interested on the daily type movement, and just being more okay with the more inconsistent returns, I guess, that swing trading has. But overall, it's just more chill way to do things. That fossil looks nice. So without further ado, we can go through again. If anyone's new here, I don't know why you would stumble across this. I'm an algorithmic trader, meaning I use a robot to enter all my trades for me. I very rarely take positions myself. I use that with Trade Ideas that I use for my backtesting and the actual order entry. And I've known the guys so long, we've been talking a fair amount, that I like to build strategies, and if anything looks like they're something that their artificial intelligence would like, I usually send that off to them so they can take a look. So again, more of a statistical trader, but again, have been watching charts for many a moon, so I can go to speak a little bit to technical analysis from here. And also, if you guys hadn't noticed, Trade Ideas finally got through and added some indicators to their charts here, so there's a fair amount of moving averages and EMAs and that kind of stuff. I'm not really, what the hell is this song? I'm not really an indicator guy. I threw them on here just because I wanted to watch them, but for you guys that are, that's pretty cool. I know there's been a lot of people wanting that for a long time, so it should be good. So the SPY, what do you say? What do you say about these markets, right? People saying they were overextended here, and people are saying they're overextended here, and again, people are saying it's overextended here. It does kind of look like that if you draw. Oh, I get to bring back out my pen. I haven't done a live stream in for ages. If you take a look at kind of the slopes of these lines, right, there does seem to be some acceleration. Usually when you see an acceleration like that, you'll see some sort of brief pause or pullback. I don't think that's really kind of indicative to make a change, but you know, once again, we're getting this kind of acceleration of movement. Could continue, of course. Are we due for some sort of pullback? 100%. But you know, there's no reason to call in anywhere around here a top yet. So I'll be focusing on the long side primarily with a lot of my algorithms and stuff until there's kind of any reason not to. You know, they got me here. I figured there might be something to this, as you know, some sort of topping action. I kind of thought the same here, and each time, you know, proven wrong. So planning on just staying on the side of the flow and until it stops, which once they get the last bear to say that, I think that's when the top will actually happen. The Qs look a lot like the SPY. I think they're kind of leading the charge here. Technology, right? Every time a penny stock comes out with the word blockchain, everything goes nuts. So it seems like technology's leading the way a bit. IWM has been a little bit behind. You can see as we were making new highs there on the SPY, this thing had just kind of been basing. You know, perfect textbook ascended triangle there. Buyers kind of got squeezed and had a good time last few days there, but still kind of lagging. Again, I don't really look at these on percentages basis. I just kind of eyeball them. Doesn't seem nearly as strong. The biotech index, interesting, obviously coming up to new highs. Some resistance in kind of this area. So, you know, I would take a look through here if we start pulling off here. Kind of interesting, right? If we started to get back and started to trade under 110, the fact that we sold off, you know, took all this time to kind of bounce back. If we reject from this area, it's something I'm definitely going to keep an eye on. Financial sector, super strong as well. We had a big long base through here. Even longer than the IWM. So we can see just by looking at this, it's, you know, it's not finance, it's not biotech, it's definitely just straight tech. That's leading to a lot of this move, right? And then the last one I'm going to look at here is USO. On highs, right, we're really coming out of just an insanely long base here on the USO. You know, for the last many moons, right? Nothing really has happened here, so I still like to watch it, but it doesn't seem to be kind of the market driving factor it was a little bit ago. So again, as I'm going, if anybody has any questions about anything, right? Just real trading stuff that I'm actually doing in the moment, anything about me, anything about trade ideas, anything about any of this, just type away. No politics is all I'll say. Another thing that I like to do is I just want to scan through some stocks here from some favorite scans that I have. It gives me a bit of a feel for the market. If I see a lot of companies from one sector setting up, I know it's something that I'm going to watch as well. And, you know, I do this. I had just said that I don't really trade my own anymore. So a lot of people say, oh, well, why do you spend time looking at charts? It's funny, if you spend too much time in the numbers, you kind of get a lose of a feel, I guess, for lack of a better term, of how the markets are feeling, what they're doing, you know, what's moving, what do people care about. You kind of get ivory tower symptom, where if you're not, even though I might not be placing trades off a lot of these, I want to see what stocks are hot. I want to see what stocks people are talking about. You know, just get a feel on it. That's why I still will spend a little bit of time watching maybe Bloomberg or something every now and then, and a lot of time on Twitter following all kinds of different traders and that type of thing. Even though they're not really related to exactly what I do, you never know where ideas are going to come from. Robert asked, I'm only algo trading in a profitable manner. Yeah, when I started algo trading, I was trading myself with it. I didn't just jump right over. I went from fully discretionary to maybe, some back-tested scans telling me, you should look at this or you should look at that, and then still making my own decision. And as I found that the bot did as well, sometimes better than I did, with significantly less stress and significantly less gray hairs than I was doing it, I slowly transitioned over to fully algorithmic trading. I would fully might not be true. I'd say 90 to 99%. If I see a trade, I'll still take it from time to time, but mostly just kind of looking at having the bot do it for me. And sometimes I'll create, and this is something we did on the channel a while ago, I might bring back in 2018. You can go back on the channel and kind of take a look at that, where I would do what I called Robocop trading, which you would build your own watch list and you would feed that into the robot and say, okay, only trade it if XYZ scenarios happen. And it would do that as well. So I don't know if I would consider that algo trading. It's just more auto trading. And I do that from time to time as well, where I'll just say, hey, here's a list of stocks that look bearish to me. Take action if these specific criterias take place. This is, again, I'll just go through the scans I'm looking at. The first one was just a watch list that I put together of what sectors I look at. I'll add and remove as things get, more and less interesting. Like eventually I'm just going to stop looking at oil. It doesn't seem to really affect anything anymore. It hasn't really moved at all. Over here is just a scan that I got from the channel bar, like the basic built-in can things that you can get. And it's something that at Today Trader on Twitter, Steve Gomez built, where it's just looking for certain stocks that have, they're looking strong and have incredibly high short interest. If I scroll over, you can see the short floats of a lot of these. This is 32%, 29%, 146%, which is insane. It means a lot of naked floats. And just kind of, so it's looking at, okay, what's heavily shorted? So what has the potential of having a squeeze? And there's a fair amount that I can gauge from this. A, I want to see what the market is beating up. And B, I want to know what traders might be looking at, because I know high short float gets people in as well. Tom says the only broker that does auto trades with IB is, it does with trade ideas, is Interactive Brokers. Yep, that's true for now. I would definitely tweet at the guys and email info at Trade Ideas if you want different brokers. The bot is still technically a beta product right now, so there's still some kinks to work out, and I think the game plan is to get it out of beta for Interactive Brokers, and then once it's out of beta, then start going to different brokers after that, right? So instead of getting a product out that's kind of buggy and push it out to a bunch of different brokers, get something that's rock solid and then go from there. And because I've been using it and I haven't seen any bugs in a long time, I think they're probably getting pretty close to that step. So this other scan is trend change lubricant factor. And again, I can share most of these with you guys as of CloudLink. I'm not a sell my scans kind of guy. So if you want any of these, just let me know. I can share them. Some of them I won't be able to because they'll have custom formulas, but most of them will be fine. Okay, I am in the weeds here on YouTube. Hold on. So yeah, this one is another one that's made up by a lot of the Trade Ideas guys. It's just looking for stocks that are beaten up. overall, maybe in the last year or so, and then are now showing some strength. Fossil here, for example, I would look at Fossil kind of in and around $10. So again, this kind of thing would be one of my very rare discretionary trades, but I'm actually going to create a price alert at yeah, 988 is good. We'll save that. Look, push through. Just because, again, I have been trading for a long time. I've been staring at charts forever. If it gets through 10, we've got this little gap to fill at 12. That'd be like a 20% return, which in today's world, it's nothing, I guess, but I'm still old school like that. The icon's kind of interesting too, just incredibly beat up, showing some life here, showing a bottom. Probably looks better if you zoom in here, right? Starting to bottom out here. You've got, you know where your support is anyway, but doesn't seem to move that much. What is it actually? A brand company owns, licenses and markets a portfolio of consumer brands. Yeah, that doesn't sound like anything that can just pop for absolutely no reason. So I'll forget about this one. And then this is one that's basically just looking for stocks that are have incredibly low RSIs. And this is all, for lack of a better term, kind of a warm-up. You know, I want to see what's going on in the market. I always spend, before I take a look at any scans, I always spend a few minutes just kind of checking what's out there, what's moving, what do people care about. It's like, again, I'm a nerd, if you hadn't seen or guessed. Check out EPA if you want some. Oh yeah, I see what you're looking at there. Yeah, so I'm a bit of a nerd. I play some games. I used to play StarCraft a lot, and before you would get in and compete, you'd spend some time just kind of warming up your brain and your hands, and that's kind of what I like to do here before I get into the scans. Is again, trying to explain it, but it's like just exposing yourself to the market, I think, is a good thing, even if you're just someone who focuses on numbers. These are just the relative volume leaders, guys that are doing much more volume on a relative basis than they normally do. Like MJX, right, normally does almost next to nothing in volume. It's been doing, you know, up to 6 million in the last little bit. Again, more of just what people are talking about. I'll actually move this over here, because quite often I'm looking at this, which is a really underutilized window, I think, in trade ideas. You can just find out quickly, like, I know this is somehow a networks company. It probably popped like that because they said they're going to be in Bitcoin. Right, you can easily find out what they're doing, what their average volume is. The relative volume's 20. You'd like that trend occasion lubricant? Sure. Here you go. Save and share. Copy. Paste. There you go. Just gives you a little kind of snippet of the company right through there. So, like, one thing I'm noting is that the high relative volume guys aren't that insane on a relative volume specter. Like, a lot of them have come out. They're not day 1 of the pop. They're day 3, 4, and 5 of the pop. And the last one I like to look at, and this is just kind of what I'm looking at now. These change all the time depending on the market. This is just looking at hammer candles. So, you know, your stereotypical textbook hammer candles. Now, unfortunately, of all the ones I can share, I can't share this one because this is made with custom formulas. We are, however, going to do a little bit of custom formula work in just a minute when I'm done scanning this list. So you can kind of get a glimpse on how to get started. And if that's something that interests you guys more, I did a talk with Trade Ideas last year. Is the last time I guess they wanted to hear from me. It was all about custom formulas, so I can share that with you guys too. And then we're almost immediately going to do something about the music. Hold on here. All right. So a lot of breakout hammers, right? That's the third of the top three. They're all gapping above some sort of a base, putting in hammers, which is interesting. Could mean some continuation. Yeah, a lot of breakout hammers. And part of it is looking at the same scans, I think, even though they do get changed every 6 months or every year. But looking at the same scans every single night, I think, does things with your brain. Like, quite often when I run this scan, I see a lot of, you know, red candle, red candle, red candle, hammer. But now you're seeing a lot of did a base, broke out, and it's putting in a hammer up here. So it's diving in, I guess, is a good term, because looking at the SPY only goes so far. You know, the SPY is 500 stocks, so going through what's making up those 500 stocks can show you quite a bit. Oh, well, there you go, bud. And this one here. There we go. So that's interesting. Okay, so let's get into the scan building. So I got an idea for the market. Everything, there's just nothing that says like bearish to me. Elvis, yeah, just email me. My email is below every single video that I have. So just fire me an email and we'll chat through there. And if you don't hear from me back in a few days, email me again. I get a lot of stuff that's lost. So, all right. So to get into the scanning, Windows, close all. That's step one. You really gotta. For me, I'll go nuts if I don't clear the slate before getting started. So essentially this is, let's bring up paint. I always like to, I'm a very visual person. I should get a giant touchscreen monitor. I think I'd like that. I was thinking of going full out this year and doing like green screen stuff and the whole 9 yards. I just gotta figure out what you guys want to see. Not calligraphy, just give me, how do I get just a pencil? Here we go. So essentially the idea was this. The hardest part, I think, of scan building at this point for me is just coming up with ideas, right? I spend a lot of time, if you guys follow me on Twitter, you've seen a little less staring at charts, hopefully not too much. I never want to be a guy who's just, here's my personal life, a little more jokes and walking the dog and that kind of shit. Just trying to get new ideas. I find that I get my best ideas when I'm out walking or, you know, at the gym or meditating or, I don't know, playing some games or whatever it may be. So I was thinking that trying to see a correlation between volume in a stock and stock twits mention. I went over to stock twits for a little bit. The bot was in this one tiny little I called it out on Twitter. It got in me. It got in 3 times. I don't know why, but it was in this little INPX. Little piddly stock. It got in a little bit here, got stopped out, and it got in a little bit more down here at the support. I've since cut off under dollar stocks. So I went over to Stock Twits just because I couldn't really find much news about this company. It's a little tiny. They do indoor GPS or something. And it's just the worst over there. It is like just people trying to pump everything because they think if tweeting on Twitter is going to pump up a stock price and that's how you make money in the market. And it was crazy. So while I was over there, I was kind of thinking, are these people actually doing anything? So one thing would be, is it a precursor to a move? So, right? So the idea was simple, right? Start off with, does Stock Twits do shit? All right, let's make that, excuse my French. I am never claimed to be a professional here. Does Stock Twits do shit? That was the question, right? And that's how I try to start most of my ideas, right? Does the 200-day matter would be the start of an idea, right? How much is VWAP important? That'd be the start of an idea. So, you know, I'm out walking the dog and do Stock Twits do shit? I don't know. So how could I find that out? Now, with a very powerful program like Trade Ideas, you can almost anything you can think of, you can do. I've been talking to them. The stuff that is in the wins, I'm hoping to see soon, but it will make you able to do even more. But how do I answer this question, right? Do Stock Twits do shit? Well, if they do anything, I think they should be the precursor to 2 things, and that would be volume, right? Which is usually and also the precursor to price, right? So if we want to know if Stock Twits does shit, these seem reasonable. And again, I'm not a data scientist. This is killing me. Let's just call them V and P, right? So if it does anything, then it should move both volume and price, but we should be able to see this first, right? So in Trade Ideas, there's actually a couple little guys, ways that we might be able to do this, right? So if you don't know, in Trade Ideas, you can filter the market by pretty much anything you want. So by going in here, going into filter, we're going to take a look at volume, right? We can, everything to do with volume, we can kind of change here. And then we can also do Stock Twits. And Trade Ideas actually has some sort of a API that scrubs Stock Twits and looks at, okay, how many mentions on each stock per day? And then you can say, okay, what's the relative activity to that? So what I'm thinking of doing is coming up with a custom formula that is comparing the Stock Twits relative activity to volume and saying, okay, I want a large Stock Twits relative activity and a lower volume. And then I'm going to see if that stock moves after that fact. So if there's a lot of Stock Twits activity, but not a lot of relative volume, right? So high one, low the other. Does that mean that it will or could move soon after, right? So I'm just going to make a swing algo that says, okay, what if there's a lot of Stock Twits activity, not a lot of movement, and not a lot of volume relative? And, right, you buy it and you put out a stop and you hold it for a few days, what's going to happen? Hey, Greg, how's it going, man? I was just telling everyone I'm kind of shut myself down there for a month in December to do a bunch of holiday stuff, and I'm just kind of gearing back up now. Yeah, so that's kind of the premise of what the profit and loss would be. And again, if you're new to trade ideas, just know that um, basically you can take any alert window, you can throw it in, you can say, okay, if you were to buy, say, 100 shares of the first time this alert went through, put out a stop, held it for X amount of days, and sold it, what would your profit and loss be? And that's kind of the fundamentals to Holly, right? So we're going to see what would happen. So for all of the built-in filters, which there are tons and tons and tons and tons and tons, this particular one doesn't exist. But what Trade Ideas does, gives you the option to build some of your custom formulas. So we're going to go in here and quickly get off MSN Messenger, whatever the hell that is, log ourselves in. And under here you can see custom formulas, and we can take a look. These are all the custom formulas I currently have. There's a couple of resources here that you should read, help and custom formula filters, and then we'll just create new. The help gives you actually this PDF, which everything I've learned about building custom formulas I have from here. I'm not a programmer. I can't do any programming, not even like a crazy good math guy or anything like that. Just more this is what I like type thing. So yeah, you can learn a lot from here. And then you can also look at these filter codes. So if you want to like have one of these formulas point at price, it just gives you what code to type in for every one of Trade Ideas formulas. So what we just want to do, I think, is just divide the stock relative activity to the volume percentage is what I'm going to try. And I'm going to see if that kind of makes sense. Let's just search this for stock. Stock twits relative activity. So we have both mentions per day, which we'll use, and the relativity of percentage. So we're going to put in the percentage, and then there's also one in Trade Ideas that does the volume percentage. So just like this is looking at how many tweets happen per day, and says, okay, show me how many, the hard number. Is there 100? Is there 1,000? Is there 10,000? It looks and it says, okay, if there's normally 100 and now there's 200, that would be 200%. This does the same with volume. It says, okay, let me look at how much volume it's done usually at this point today and say, okay, is it above or below that? So we're going to just divide stock twits, that percentage, by the percentage of the volume activity. And then we're going to see if having a high number of this, saying that there's a lot of stock twits activity going on, but not a lot of volume going on, if that can somehow be a precursor to a move. So if you're new to custom formulas, down here there's a bunch of options. Description is very important because this is what's going to show up when you open up your alert window. So if you want to search for it, so I'm just going to put stock twits over volume, just so I can find it easy. Units, this is going to be percentage, but you can put percentage dollars, you can put a word, you can kind of put whatever you want. And I just ignore this. This is, you can do like a cone if you're going to add it to a top list, which we're really not going to. We're going to click save. You can see the action is saved. So now if we open up a new alert window again and we type in volume, we should see our new formula added. Stock twits over volume right here. So we can go through and we can start kind of building this, where we're going to add this as the premise of our trade. And I don't know, say minimum 3. And I don't know how any of this is going to affect this, so we're just going to start from there. Stocks between $1 and $100. Volume today, I want 200,000 just to make sure we're not trading anything really liquid. We're also going to go add in stock twits. Relative activity, we're going to add that in there. Oh no, add in mentions per day. The reason we're doing this is because theoretically you could have like 500% relative activity if it normally gets mentioned once a day and now it's get mentioned 10, right? So we're going to go through and just say it's got to be mentioned at least 100 times a day normally, and then so that for it to be doing a lot more, it has to go through there. Question, is there an alert you can use to short a stock when it reaches a certain area determined by some custom formula? I'm using the 5-minute topping taillet formation, but that's not what I'm looking for. You want to go into each stock and define an area and then have it trade if it reaches that area. I don't think you can do that through trade ideas, but you should be able to do that through your broker, where you just set like a stop limit and say, okay, if this stock gets to this area, buy me in and put out a stop. I just don't think that's something you need to go through trade ideas for. You should be able to do that to your broker. It should be like a conditional alert. Yeah, 314 is right there too. You can just put in a heartbeat, and what this is just an alert. Oh no, it's based on ATR. Okay, no, sorry, I misunderstood you. It's not a price. So yeah, 314 is right. What you want to do is you want to build your alert window and just put heartbeat in. And what heartbeat does is it triggers once a minute when all of the other criteria is met. So it doesn't need, you can specify it. You can have it do it once every 10 minutes or once every hour or something. So if you just want to get a custom formula build, and then you're not really determined price, but a custom build, and just, so put that custom in, and then put heartbeat on in there. And it should only go through once a minute or once a hour or whatever you define in this box here. So give that a shot and let us know. Okay, so we've got this ready to go where it's got doing 3 times normal and relative stock twits volume compared to relative actual volume. So a lot of stock twit volume, not a lot of volume in regular volume. No worries. I hope that works. But it normally does a decent amount of volume and normally gets talked about somewhat on stock twits already. The next, we just need our alert, and I'm just going to do breaking of resistance. Right, you can do a couple things here, but I'm just going to cross above a resistance point. I'm going to make that resistance point had to have existed for about an hour. And then we're just going to try this. Again, if you're new to trade ideas, I'll kind of walk you around like you don't have it. Basically, what you do in trade ideas is they pull all the data in from all of the stocks and all of the markets. You go in, you set your parameters, right? For me, cut off anything that has less than 200,000 shares. Don't show me penny stocks, right? $1 to $100 what I'm looking at. And then from there, we went a little bit deeper and we said, okay, we only want to see stocks that are doing this very, very specific thing. From there, we took a look at what we wanted to have happen to be that trigger point. We said, okay, I want that stock to at least have an hour's worth of resistance that it's now breaking through. You can do all kinds of stuff. You can specify your exchanges. I usually leave it as is. You can only look at a number of symbols. If you only wanted to look at like 10 symbols, you can make lists of like 10 symbols and look at those. If you want to exclude certain symbols, you can do that as well. Like, I know there's people who have like bad memories with certain symbols. Maybe they have like a really bad memory with Yum Brands comes to mind. I know a guy who won't trade the stock because it's out to get him. So you can do that as well. Columns, these are just the columns we're going to see in our scan. This is something I think everybody in Trade Ideas overlooks before they get started. That's this, let me draw. Here we go. Oh, well, let me draw. I don't know why. This summary screen. It does cross above resistance, stocks between $1 and $100. It just gives you everything kind of plain English, which for simple-minded folk like me, twits versus traders, we'll call it. Yeah, simple people like me really kind of like that. So now we've got a alert window. So everything that's going to meet our criteria in the market is going to come through this window. I just want to take a look if actually anything ever comes through this window. Well, sometimes. Hold on. One more thing. So you can see I scanned through and there are actually a bunch of ETFs came through here. I'm not really interested in ETFs, so I'm going to go through. There's a couple ways you can do it. You can build a list of the ETFs and exclude it. I basically use the earnings per share trick where ETFs don't report earnings per share. So as long as you say, 50,000 to 50,000, so as long as it's reporting some earnings per share, you'll let it in. If it's not reporting, you won't let it in. That's a good way to cut out all of the volume. So we've got some stuff here, and it's kind of interesting. Going back a few days ago, kind of interesting. So again, if you're new to Trade Ideas, the volumes here, the blue arrow, right? It's a simple chart. Let's go and maybe indicators, volume. There, add that in. There we go. So you can see the volume here. This one actually had a lot of volume and a lot of stock twits mentioned. We might have to crank up that number as well. Let's take a look. Yeah, see, something like that is interesting. But there is something coming through. The blue arrow is going to kind of annotate the day that it went through. We're actually going to see where the entry and exit and stop prices were once we run a back test. So let's go through 314, or should I just call you Pi? We need more TI daily chart alerts. Same support and resistance logic applied. 100% agree. Tweet at Trade Ideas 1, and you can include me if there's like a CC tweet and say, man, I was watching this guy's stream and it was amazing, and we both agreed that you need these. I'm with you on that one for sure. So within Trade Ideas, if you want to backtest something, you can right click any alert window with an A here and click backtest strategy, and then you can set, okay, when do you want it to enter in. I'm going to sit out the first half hour here. I very rarely find alerts that work well within a half hour. I don't know if it's limitation of algo trading, or if it's my style, or what it is, but I like to chill for the first bit. Here's where you're going to say when do you want to exit. Let's do it market close tomorrow in a day for now. Day after tomorrow. Tomorrow plus 2 days. Let's just do this. So we'll be in it for tomorrow. So if it triggers on Monday, right, then you've got Tuesday and Wednesday. It will exit at the close. Risk management, what do you want to risk? I am going to risk this swing stop. It's a custom algorithm. I'm not ready to share it yet. It's got some tweaking to do, but it's basically looking at if today's low was lower than the 5-day low, then use today's low, and if not, use the 5 days low. So in this case, the stop would have been down here, kind of below the 5 days low. If it was a situation like this that it triggered, it would put the stop right below today's low. It's kind of the logic behind it. I want some more work to do with it, but just know that it's using a stop not based off like $1 or 5%. It's kind of drawing it based off of the charts here. and saying you basically don't want to hold, in this situation, if it bought in here and it got, you wouldn't want your stop to be any lower than something like that. Advanced, this is just how long you want it to run for and what you want to be in your window. I put everything. I want everything to return. So it's going to take a while to load, right? So I just put everything in there. And then we'll just simulate. Oh, again, another summary for dum-dums like me that just tells you everything you actually put in layman term. And we'll just kind of buy from here. And what it's going to do is the first instant, which is important to note, of each and every alert. So you can see this MYSZ came through a metric crap done. It would have triggered on the first alert, right? So the first one to come through at 195 is where it would have triggered. So right in here somewhere. And in this case, the stop would have been kind of down here, so pretty wide. Not the worst results I've ever seen right off the bat. Certainly not the best. Let's really widen up the stop on this and then return it again. My Apple Watch is yelling me to stand up. We must have been going for an hour. Let's just do like, I don't know, let's take the 5-day range. And that's going to be the stop. See what happens here. Because again, I'm just trying to see how predictive this is. And whether or not it's something that we could optimize into an algorithm that kind of makes sense. See, that's much worse. You can see not really much interesting so far here. Let's actually, instead of tightening this, let's loosen this to our formula here from 3 to 2. And then let's lighten up our alert here as well, just so it's any cross above a resistance point. This is going to take a while to load just because I showed you everything and it's trying to load it here. There's, Trade Ideas is up to like 1 billion alerts, and I have a whole bunch of customs, so it takes a second to load in. So let's run this and see what happens. Back with the old swing stop too. Basically, we want to see a lot of alerts because we want to see whether or not this makes any sense at all. And currently it might not. And what we might want to look at is what happens if you short it. That's interesting though. You see our win-loss is awful, right? 33%. Our profit loss is pretty friggin' great. So when it does work, it really works. Doesn't seem to work that often though. The other thing we can do is try different alerts, different ways to get in. We could do, instead of this, maybe we do a new high, and maybe it's got to be like, I don't know, a new 2-day high. This is probably going to generate a bunch more results as well. Hey, Winston. Hey, buddy. Good boy. Dog's having a bad dream. Very interesting. What happens if we just short this? What happens if we just put a short on that? So, it seems very unlikely that by pumping something on stock twits, you get any movement at all from it. It's interesting. Now, another thing that I'd like to do, it's not in Trade Ideas yet, but I thought would be interesting, is if they could allow like a follower cap. So it looks like these tiny guys who are just pumping stocks on stock twits, they don't even get like a few day bump out of it. Because again, what we're looking for, and let's just go turn this up to 1 million and just put a 1 day high on it. So a new high just today. That's all it needs to be, a new high. But it needs to be doing like 10 times normal stock twits volume. Is this going to give us anything? Try the inverse. High volume, low stock twits. That's interesting too. So again, I'm trying not to watch the viewer count, but if there are people kind of coming and going, we basically decided today, instead of like building a scan or doing something like this, that we were going to try to see whether or not, again, here's our question, does stock twits do shit? And I guess that's, I kind of have to label this the VOD, the video that's going to come up later. That has to be the label, right? So our question was, is stock twits an indicative of a move, right? Does the people who go over to stock twits and say my stock's the best and just type that over and over and over again and gets a lot of stock twits mentions, does that move the stock in later days? So how we determine this is we went in Trade Ideas and we built a custom formula that says I want to know, and we'll just call S for stock twits, over volume. So I want to know this ratio. If it's super high, right, and you buy the stock when it makes a new high, does that actually do anything, right? Do we get this price follow through over the next like 3 days, we said, right? Is it higher in 3 days than it is when you buy it? And we just ran it under a myriad of ways, and it was never able to crack a 33 win percentage. So far, no, right? The answer to does stock twits do shit? The answer to that was no, as far as we could tell. I may test it a bunch of different ways to see if I can do this, but I think that's interesting in and of itself, right? If any of you guys here are doing that, if you go to stock twits and you try to find the stock that everyone's talking about and then just buy that, does that do anything? Doesn't look like it. Interesting here. 314 is saying try the inverse, high volume, low relative stock twits. So we would want to make it like a maximum. Oh, let's not do that. Which is interesting. I like that idea. Let's go take a look. Yeah, so what happens if it's pumping out huge volume, but no one's on stock twits is really talking about it? So we still have the same formula, which is basically just this, right? Again, for the people coming and going. We built a custom that says what's the relative amount of stock twits volume versus the relative amount of actual volume. What is the comparison between the two of those? And we found that when that number was really high, there was a lot of stock twits and no volume. It's just people dumping it and it crashes back down, which I'm actually writing right now, old school, on a pen and a piece of paper, because this now has created another question in my head that says something like, okay, how can we short this? Maybe if this happens and then the stock like goes back through the open or something, that might actually be a shortable event. Short. So that's kind of interesting, right? Is there a way to kind of look at pump and dumps in this statistically back-tested manner? But yeah, 314 here is saying, why don't we see what happens instead of everybody talking about it to try to pump it, if nobody's talking about it and the volume's pushing. So let's go back here. And so instead of using this equation and building another one, let's just make sure it has to be like a fraction. So like, I don't know, say max 0.5 and see how this works. So it should be high relative volume with low stock twits. And again, our only entry criteria is a new high. So let's go through and let's see what would have happened on the previous trading day. There's only one alert here on VTGN. So that's kind of interesting. So let's actually run this, and we're going to back test this for the last quarter and see what would have happened here. And this so far doesn't seem to matter much, but that's not a lot of trades. Okay, so 0.5 is very small. In fact, let's actually just go back here and do another formula. I think it'll just be more customizable if I don't have to ask it like a fraction. So we're going to grab this, and we're going to save this, and then we're going to go back to custom formulas, and we're going to build another one that's just the opposite. So again, if you missed the beginning part of the stream, everything will be recorded. Links for this program, Trade Ideas, down below what you're watching. Links for, let's put this in, email to me. I do one-on-one sessions like this where I'll answer anything the trader has. I usually show kind of the more intricacies of, you know, how to build scans, that type of thing. My email for that is below as well. Oh, also, before I forget, Trade Ideas. Let me bring up my Twitter here. And I guess time for another shameless plug. If you're not following me on Twitter, you should follow me on Twitter. Where is it? Yeah, the Trade is having a test drive here, where again, if you're interested in this and you go look at it and you say, "Oh, that's too much money" or whatever, it's $9. I'm gonna put this link. How do I? Come on, Windows, Windows, freaking Windows. Copy tweet, sure. Why not? I'll just put the whole tweet in here. So you get to try the whole program, the backtester, the whole 9 yards for like $9, so it's pretty good. And again, usually every now and then there'll be some crazy hippie voodoo. You can only imagine what I was into when I was watching it, fourth dimensional Tesseract stuff. But most of it is trading, things that the bot's kind of calling out live as it's happening. You know, NTR bot into this pullback, right? I usually try to take a snapshot right after it happened. Some more sellout stuff. Sunrise Trader, if you're not following him, is a really good, really chill trader. Jack Dam's great calls. But Brian Shannon, you just have to. Well, now I'm going to feel bad if I leave out Quantbot Jamie. But yeah, so again, not a lot of dog pictures. Warning, there will be some kind of dog pictures, but check me out there. But yeah, they're having that $9 thing if you want to try. So always take a look when you're saving your custom formula that actually says saved here. If it says partially saved, then it was usually like a syntax type of an error. So we're going to go through and we're going to take our new formula here, which was volume over stock twits, and we're going to make that, I don't know, make that like a 3. Yeah, add that filter. We'll make this a 3, and then we'll remove this. So we have a volume over stock twits and a stock twits over volume. Oh, that didn't do anything. That's interesting. Maybe it's the other thing too, we're just testing. It could be near impossible to have high volume and nobody talking about it. This looks like it's gonna, that would be the exact same as 0.5. Duh. Quick baths. Let's make this 1.5. And the reason you'll see me just always loosen up these criterias when something like this happens is to make sure that things are going through. Is just to make sure I get enough trades. If I get 10 trades, then it's not really telling me anything. I want like 1,000 trades. We may need to express this differently or it doesn't go through. Other was a percent. Oh, I know what you mean. I just got lazy. Let me show you what happened. You see where in units here, I put the other one as a percentage, and I didn't put this one as. It's really a relative thing. So if I say, hey, Keith, and I hit save, oh, let's cancel this, and then I open up, just to show it doesn't really affect the formula, it affects how it shows it to me. Oh, this one called me a liar. I guess it didn't say. It should say, hey, Keith, right here. Maybe that's too long. But how it says mentions per day, if I put in mentions per day, it should do that. Let's reset connection. Configure. Because, yeah, I have... No, hey, Keith might be too long. But... hey, Dory. It's careful with backtesting. I mean, very little in real life training. You must be new here. I make my living just on doing these, right? So you're right. There's a lot of things you have to do to make sure they're like real life trade, not like real life, or they are like real life trading. I have a lot of videos about that as well, but I do, my entire trading is based off of backtests, and is carried out by this program. So yeah, see, that didn't change. So yeah, definitely be careful, backtest, be careful with everything, but they're just like, let me put it this way. People trade because they see repeatable patterns, right? Whether it's, you know, don't trust backtest, but trust ascending triangles, right? Well, ascending triangles, the reason people know that that kind of stuff works is because they've essentially backtested with their mind. Right? So you're buying an ascending triangle because you've seen 8 ascending triangles happen before. Or you're buying a stock because it comes out with Bitcoin news because you've seen it happen 10 times before. So everything a trader does, or you're buying high PE ratios because you've seen it happen before. So everything you're doing is mentally, summary, like that. Or no, for the alert. Here, let me bring this up. So everything you're doing is backtesting in a way. So again, I'm not really trying to argue or anything, but just kind of, yes, be careful with backtesting, be careful with everything, but remember, in a sense, everything that you do in trading is a backtest. I'll snip this and put it in a corner so I can continue to move stuff. It's like this. So I think all this told us is that it's really hard to have a stock pumping out a lot of volume but not getting talked about a lot on Twitter. Cool to catch you live. Gotta head out just so everyone knows Michaelson Ostenfeld. Aw, that's nice, man. Aw, shucks. I never tried TI show, but it's true for TradeStation and NinjaTrader. I don't like TradeStation and NinjaTrader's backtesting, and I'll tell you the difference. So something like TradeStation, you'll put in like Apple, and you'll say, all right, tell me what happens when Apple does this. And then you'll go through and run a backtest. That gives you an incredibly small statistical sample, an incredibly almost irrelevant backtesting source. The difference is, so just to mirror those trade ideas, for example, I've said, let me know when this event happens, right? Let me know, again, for example, when a stock crosses a 200-day moving average and you buy it, what happens? The benefit of that is it brings in all stocks across the NYSE and the NASDAQ and some pink sheet OTC stuff as well, and says, okay, across all stocks, this is what happens. Not what stock by stock or even cluster of stock by cluster of stocks says. What is the entire market? So your statistical sample is just significantly higher. That's why I like Trade Ideas better. But, you know, there's nuances to everything. It's both an art and a science, and I think it takes a lot of work to kind of figure all that out, what you're doing, but I don't really just trust models. Basically what I want to do is I want to see something happen in nature, quote unquote, and then tell Trade Ideas I saw this thing happen in nature and ask it what has happened in the past, right? So in this situation, we worked for an hour, which happens a lot, unfortunately. I've worked for 40 hours, and we found out that there is no there. We tried to see what happens when stocks really move, stocks really print volume, and there's no stock twits activity, and that doesn't really happen. It seems like the second volume comes out, there's people going through. Probably, I'm going to say 314. I'm probably going to just say bots. I found that on stock twits quite often there's just bots that just print symbols based off what volume's happening, I think just to gain followers. And then the other thing is just, right, if it's doing volume, everybody has some sort of a scanner to find some sort of scanner to find volume pops. I think that's like the most common thing that traders look for. And then we found the other way around. Could people go on stock twits and do a lot of stock twits mentions and a lot of stock twits craziness and actually force a price move? And it doesn't seem like that is the case either. Now, again, one thing that I want to test, but we can't currently in Trade Ideas, I'm going to go ask Dave, or if there's anyone from Trade Ideas watching. I doubt there is. It would be cool if you could set a follower cap. So, like, I only want to see people with, like, 10,000 followers, which, again, I only have 842. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Some of you guys should... I want to see guys with 10,000 plus followers. If their stuff goes up, then does everything get pushed through after that? That would be interesting to test, but there is no there. So I'm open to questions. If anyone has questions, I'm open to dialogue, but that's just like one thing that kind of popped in my head that I want to do today. Again, sorry for leaving you guys for like a month, but I am back now. I've got a handful of ideas for videos. I'm looking to always, again, email me, tweet at me, leave comments, say this is what I want to see or this is what I want to see. Again, I'm never going to be that flashy, make $1 billion if you follow me type BSer, and I hope that serves me well. But what I'll do is show you what I do, and if it's something that makes sense to you, then maybe you kind of follow along. So again, links for everything down below. I'm gonna take a sip of my water here, and if some questions come through, great. Do I ever try to test it against the test one of my scans against the live market? Again, 100%, sorry, 90%, of every trade that I make, every trade that I call out, I call out, I'd say a large, a fair amount of my trades here on Twitter, all are happening automatically through a bot. Right, all of this is right, the bot's performance on, what was it, Friday, right? These are all trades that the bot happened. So yeah, I test it live just by saying, okay, if you think this is this profitable, here's some of my money, right? And let's see what happens. Again, sensibly, I never just test it right off the bat. I'm never crazy enough to say, oh, look, it's a good back test. Here is access to my house, right? It's okay, that looks good. Let's try 100 shares, see how that happens, right? Okay, it's working. Let's try 200 shares. Let's see what happens here. That type of thing. Right? And there's a lot, if you go back on the channel, there's a lot of videos of live trading with the bot. There's a lot of videos. I did an RSP challenge for a while where I made like, 10% in a month or something. Trading your guys' equivalent to like an IRA. Then people stopped watching. So I stopped that as well. But yeah, everything gets tested eventually. There's no sense for me to backtest these if I'm not planning on building them. I don't sell backtests. I don't give away the backtested strategies that I run. If you want me to just bring one up, revision of the mean's actually looking pretty good. All right, on Monday, Tuesday, tomorrow, when I trade live, the bot will have access to this strategy and we'll run it as trades come through. That's what we do here. But yeah, so I made this one maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks ago, and then it's still on 100 shares. You know, I want to see a handful of, and this is a simple revision to the mean, kind of bullish type strategy. So you can see what happened here on the 12th. And again, this is something that's great about Trade Ideas. Double click on the symbol, and if you want to actually see how it would have actually performed, it gives you all the trades that happened, right? So it was main, and I actually called out main here. Live here on Twitter, right? So, right, main's trying to bottom fish here, and it got in at 37.57, right? The stop was right below the low of the day, and you can see that, right, we had a pretty good close, moved up higher, and then it closed at the end of Friday, so that was the profit. Question is, can you increase the commission to $5? That'd be more realistic. I can increase the commission to $5. However, if you are paying $5 for 100 shares traded, you are getting scammed, and leave your broker immediately. Right? If you're paying $4.99 or $5 to trade 100 shares, run. Interactive brokers, Lightspeed, there's a handful of other brokers that will charge you 3.14 a year with IB, right? What do we get charged? It's a little under $1, isn't it, per 100 shares? Depending on what ECN you hit on, or is it a little over $1? It's about $1 I pay per 100 shares. So yeah, if you are, if you are getting charged $5 for 100 shares, then definitely run. Your broker doesn't owe you anything, and you don't owe your broker anything. So get to the point where you're not paying that. I actually use $10 for stock. Oh, well, we actually have a slippage amount here. So, right, I make sure I have things in Trade Ideas where I say, don't, spread indicators. We have volume indicators. We have, 314 says we pay $1. Right, all this stuff, but you can increase the slippage. So this is actually assuming, even though the volume's pretty high and the spread's pretty high, it's actually saying 2 cents in and 2 cents out, right? So this price, this 37.56, the alert would have actually come through at 37.54, and then you would have lost 2 cents on the out as well, right? But you could go, 4 or 5 cents and see it doesn't really matter that much, because these are swing trades. A very high frequency strategy is going to obviously get hit by this much more. So, but yeah, you can change both the slippage and the commission independently. And really, if you're trading liquid stocks and you're not getting gouged for $5 a trade, then at the end of the day, it shouldn't really affect your strategy, or you're just probably trading way too much. In which case, go with a prop firm, because you're going to get even cheaper commissions. Now, if there's 2,000 trades here, right, commission and slippage is going to smoke you much harder. So yeah, I'm not trying to kick anyone off. I covered what I wanted to cover today, and I might do another one of these on like a Wednesday, and then another one on a Friday while I try to put together other videos. My computer's a bit on the fritz, so I need like a new editing / gaming rig at some point too. Although you can tell by my videos there ain't much editing involved. The question, what do I think of Holly? I actually built a lot of Holly strats, and basically what she's doing is how I built this strategy and how I refined it based off of different things like today's range and all that. She's also she's also doing the same thing. So a lot of the main ideas Holly's trades with, sorry, I don't, that's cocky. Not a lot. Some of the main ideas Holly trades with are my own. I think looking for a bounce and on support tomorrow. No. I don't know if I did. I've sent them so many I can't remember which one. I'm pretty sure looking for a bounce I did. So yeah, I like her. But again, what I want to, you know, like this, like anything else, a lot of people are like, okay, how do I auto trade Holly? I don't is a good answer. There's no easy way out of this game, right? Either this is the 100% reason why I don't sell my algos, is because you've got to learn what makes up the algo. You've got to learn how to repair it when market conditions change and you have to change it, right? Because none of these work forever, and if anyone tells you otherwise, they're crazy, right? The same strategies will not work in a bear market, in a bull market. They'll not work at the same, you know, in the August doldrums as in, you know, the more active tax seasons and stuff like this, right? You have to constantly change and adapt. However, that's what Holly does very well, right? She's stripping these down and building these. But these are tools, right? So just like the algos that I build, I monitor very closely. These, you guys really don't know the ins and outs of, and neither do I. I give Holly the general idea, and then she refines it from there. So this is meant as a tool. So you should take a look at what's coming through, right? So basically going through and looking at it, clicking on it, deciding whether or not it fits your trader appetite, and then going from there. So yeah, it's a tool. It's a good trader tool. I like it. I think, you know, any trader would benefit off it because, like, just like you said, you wish you had high volume, high quality. I don't want to I don't want to make people think I think high volume and high quality are the same thing, because I don't. I think volume is relative to size. But the point of Holly is a tool, right? So you can easily click on the first symbol that comes through, and if you don't see any volume, right, just on to the next one, right? That's why something like this shouldn't be auto traded, because you don't like certain aspects of it, right? So that's why you might want to get to work on building some of your own back-tested scans that are stocks that you like, right? That's what I think a lot of people should be doing with Holly. Use it as a tool. I have it up in the corner of my screen all day. Again, I don't make discretionary trades much. If I see something that looks absolute gold and has like really good statistics behind it, I may take it. But again, I don't do much of my own trading anymore. I find that I'm better chill like this, listening to chill music, hanging out, building scans. This is just where fits my personality better. But yeah, you might want to, right? You might want to see something like Sunrise Mover, and you might, I like that, the way that, I like the idea behind that, which is just things moving in the morning, but I don't like the volume or the spread or the price or whatever it is of the symbols putting out. So let me just go and build my own based off of that idea. And, you know, again, it's a skill. You're not just going to be able to do it instantly. And plug, that's what the mentoring is that I do. But, you know, you just get to work, and eventually you get something that you like. And then you can either auto trade that, or you can just, if you didn't want to auto trade this, you could just leave it up in the corner of your screen. And, right, you know, it's going to, like, the last trading day, here's the alerts that came through, right? So you could look at South Folk Southern that it bought on Friday and be like, you know, not really interested, right? I just don't like that. Or it could go through CMS and you'd be like, oh man, I really like that one. That's the one I really like, and go through. But you know that at least on all of these, that there's a 60% chance, at least in backtest, that this thing's going to be higher over the next few days and lower. Just add your trader eye to it. Keep the questions coming. We only have 2 guys here in chat. Again, I'm trying to hide the viewer count. When I used to stream before, it just drove me nuts. It was up one, down one. When it would drop down, I'm like, oh man, that guy didn't like me. Is there any way to program stochastics, RSI, and MA? RSI, yes. Stochastics, yes-ish. MA crossovers, kind of. You can't really... You can set the point where two moving averages are equal, right? So you could say, I want to know when the... I want to know when the 100-day moving average and the 200-day moving average are equal and something else is happening. You can do that. You could say, I want the 100-day moving average and the 200-day moving average to be within a percentage, like within 1% or 0.5% or something like that. You can do that as well. But actual just trigger on a crossover, they've got some built in here, which I'll show you. But not a huge amount. Right, they've got 200-day, 50-day, 20-day. When price crosses it, they also have some, 5 SMA and 8 SMA, and right, so they've got some built in here, some MACD stuff and stochastic stuff kind of built here as well. So some of it's pre-built, and a lot of it you can kind of do yourself as well. Sniper Mate says, any tips on learning this stuff, sites, etc.? Keep in mind, if you buy trade ideas, and if you haven't, there's a link below in the description. Sometimes you just go full sellout, right? You get a free hour. If you haven't, and if you bought it a long time ago and didn't take the free hour, I would, because it's free. But yeah, you get a free hour one-on-one with one of the guys over there. Tell them I say hi, and they'll walk you through some of it. Other than that, you can check out their website. They've got some stuff there, but not really on the deep end of trade ideas, which is why everybody who would like more content on the deep end of trade ideas to tweet at TodayTrader1. We want Bonpara. We want you to pay Bonpara to set up more information on backtesting and algorithm building, and just tweet at him my name and just say I do this all the time. I haven't gotten any feedback from Dan. I talk to Dan frequently, so I haven't gotten any feedback from Dan whether or not this annoys him. But I send him people there all the time. Tom, how much do you sell on research companies, buy or sell, advisory, etc.? Sorry, before I get to that, I forgot 314. He said a while ago, I ramble. I'm sorry. If I miss a question, type it again. I am a scatterbrained human. Earnings coming. Be careful with your algo swing strats. I actually have that built in at 314, and I'm sure you know how to do it too. When earnings season comes, I build in don't trigger anything with earnings more than like 1 or 2 days out, and I'm sure you know how to do that, right? With the weird ass way they say like 0.25 is tomorrow pre-market and 0.5 is post. I'm sure you know how to do that. You've been around the block a lot, but yeah, you can build that in. The other thing I do is I just bring up I make sure I check. Sorry. So Tom, how much do I rely on research advisors? I don't. They're evil. Avoid them. Don't pay for them. Is that strong enough? There's no, if any, but nobody knows anything about the market. And I'm going to tell you, this is real talk with Bonpar right now. No one knows shit. If someone tells you this stock is a buy, it's going higher, they don't know. Right? If someone says, listen, I know Bitcoin's going to double again, they don't know. Nobody knows anything. If anybody knew anything, they would shut up about it. Like if I knew CMS was going higher because I figured out the algorithm that no one else did, I am not telling you guys a goddamn thing. I am mortgaging my house and my family's house and my sister's house, and I am just buying the crap. Why would I tell anyone if I knew something was going to happen? That's just liquidity taken from me. I'm finding somewhere millions of dollars to buy this stock because I know. You basically just want to play the statistics, right? Which is basically what technical analysis, fundamental analysis, and statistical analysis is. It's playing the statistics. It's saying, right, when I run this, I have built in a series of filters. I've gone back in time and I've said, all right, there's a 60% chance this is going to be a good trade and a 40% bad chance this is going to be a shitty one. And I know that going in. Right? If you're not into statistics, if you're into technicals where you say, oh, you buy at support and you sell at resistance, well, you're just doing that because you've seen it happen a bunch. But you've seen something happen before and you're kind of hoping that it will happen again, right? That's the same thing. That's just statistical analysis in a sense. Fundamental analysis. Oh, I like to buy things that have gone from negative earnings to positive earnings over the last quarter. You're just doing that because you've seen or read or heard that that's something that makes money. So all these research guys doing the same thing, right? So just check their statistics. How often is this guy right? How often is it wrong? Right? So I'm not saying don't trade stocks because no one knows anything. That's silly. Right? There's a lot of people. Brian Shannon, Peter Resnicek, the Today Trader guys, QuantBot. These are all guys that I have personally spoken to who trade every day, and Brian Shannon's been doing it probably since I was born. They know what's going on, but they have, in some way or another, a statistically sound system. And then again, it's the old adage: you cut your losers short, you let winners run. But I gave up on single stocks portfolio. It's hard to beat the market. Also use VectorVest. Again, the problem I think is I'm hearing is that you're getting models from other people and using them. That's not the way this works, right? You have to do the work yourself. You've got to learn the setups yourself. You've got to find your own niche. There's many ways to lose money in the market. There's many ways to make money in the market. It's just all about finding what it is you do well. Some guys like low float poppers and they make buttloads of money doing it. I don't like that, right? Some guys trade off fundamental stuff. Don't like that either. You know, it's not so much a do you have a system that built the market, or did you become a consistently profitable trader doing your own thing, right? So I think it's less about just what do I follow and more about how do I learn, I think is the most important thing. So yeah, I hope that helped, Dom. Avoid them. Avoid people telling you what to do and not what to buy or what to sell. Follow someone who's like, I'm going to teach you how to become a trader yourself, right? As opposed to just do my thing. Because it's been proven. It just doesn't end well, right? That's why I like the Trade Ideas guys, and that's why I like the program, because it's not, even with Holly, they say Holly's smoking the markets, but if you're a good trader, you should be able to do better, right? There's all kinds of comparisons in Holly's versus the market. But does that mean you could mimic her exactly? No, you're a human. You're not a bot. Also, it's more about a tool and less about a set of here, do this, buy this stock, right? There's so many tools in here that I think everyone should kind of dive into. So again, guys, we did what we were going to do today. If you came in late and you just see me here answering questions, ask a question if you want. If you want to see everything that happened before this point, it will be uploaded as soon as YouTube gets off its ass and does it. So again, I'll leave the floor open for questions. ask away. Still waiting. I'm just checking. I sent in my dog's DNA test because we have no idea what the hell the friggin' thing is. They don't, not done yet. No worries, man. That's why I came here. That's why I do this, right? No one paid me to be here. Again, full disclosure, if you buy trade ideas from that link, there's commission there. But I don't know. I like teaching. It's fun. And since a robot took my job, I always feel like I need to be doing something. So, all right, guys, I am going to call it there. Again, this is welcome to 2018. I'm going to stop being lazy. I took about a month off to sleep there. Felt fantastic, but now I'm back. Video ideas, email them to me. Link is below every video. Tweet them at me. Again, tweet at Today Trader and say, man, this content's great. There should be something official on the Trade Ideas site. Anyways, enough selling out. I'll talk to you later, guys.